На Чернобыльской атомной электростанции произошла авария. Поврежден один из атомных реакторов. Принимаются меры по ликвидации последствий аварии.
A nuclear accident occurred in Chernobyl, Ukraine in 1986. They were testing with a reactor to see if the turbines could generate enough electricity. However, it failed, and that is how it became the biggest man-made disaster of all time. The amount of radioactive materials that were released were 500 more than the atomic bomb thrown in Hiroshima. This event made more than 116 people to evacuate immediately. It could take up to 100 years for the station to be completely decommissioned, and nowadays 200 tons of radioactive materials are still in the reactor. A lot of chemicals were sent into the air, including iodine, cesium, and strontium. It is said that Chernobyl is now a ghost town and only people who cycle in and out are its residents. This is because there is still deadly radiation in Chernobyl. The number of deaths is undefined, but at least there were about 30 deaths and many people were diagnosed with cancer.
The firemen were brave, they fought with honor. Their valiant efforts, but the blaze was more than it.
In this project, we will explain exponential growth and exponential decay and how an exponential function works. We will apply the Chernobyl accident in 1986 to these exponential functions.
An exponential function is a function whose value is a constant raised to the power of something. The general equation is fx equals a raised to x, where a is greater than 0 and it's not 1, and is any real number. The natural exponential function contains e as a base and it's raised with an exponent. The natural formula is e raised to x. The domain is always all real numbers and range is y greater than 0. The characteristic point is 0, a, where a is a y-intercept.
An example of exponential function growth is putting money in a saving account. The initial amount will earn interest over time depending on its rate. And an example of exponential function decay can be used in finance to calculate compound interest on loans taken out and investments being made, to evaluate whether or not to take those loans or make investments.
Exponential growth is a way to show how a rate is increasing according to the total number. The function that models it is f of x equals ab to the x, where b is greater than 0. On the other side, exponential decay is totally the opposite. It is a way to show how a rate is decreasing according to its total number. It uses the same function, the only difference is that b is smaller than 0.
According to the United States Environmental Protection Agency standards, the waste of nuclear energy is really dangerous and it's really important to find all the waste after 10,000 years. When you use a nuclear weapon, it causes a lot of destruction. The heat of the nuclear energy will kill anyone even they are inside a building. After killing them, there is a really high percent of a building being destroyed. We consider that the nuclear energy does not have clean energy because in Hiroshima a nuclear bomb was launched and all the radiation caused leukemia.
There is only one nuclear energy plant in Mexico that produces about 4.5% of the country's electrical energy. It is called Laguna Verde and it is located in the coast of the Gulf of Mexico in Veracruz.
Properly designed process controls and a well-understood process could have prevented the disaster. Once the explosion happened, there was no way to stop the radiation spread and its pollution. We think that the radioactive pollution did not reach Mexico since there are not cases of radioactivity in here. For environmental consequences in a global scale are: trees and plants were killed by high levels of radiation, birth defects, cancer cases linked to radiation exposure, and some European countries were subjected to different levels of radioactive contamination.
In Chernobyl, there is always a chance for something to go wrong. The energy expanded killed a lot of people. Also, many countries already have nuclear bombs, and they already said they will not use them if a war occurs. Many countries have already exploded a lot of nuclear bombs just to test them. They check them in places far away where people don't live, but the radiation stays in the atmosphere. By having this radioactive energy, we are damaging the environment. It's really sad being affected radioactively by this nuclear energy. In Chernobyl, many children with a life waiting for them died just because of this energy. We think that a solution is to make the nuclear plant far away where people do not live, but still this is not enough because if a problem happens and it explodes, all the radiation will stay in the atmosphere. We should start using more solar energy and start eliminating all the nuclear bombs that the world has.
We as a team felt good with this project. We learned to work as a team with different people we didn't really know how to work with. We struggled at trying to make the best of this project. We wanted it to be very complete and understandable, for it to help us study and understand how exponential functions work in real-life situations. It also concerns us because what happened in Chernobyl was a big accident, and the fact that math applies to every real-life situation is very interesting.